My first video on YouTube was a couple weeks ago, and I basically was ready to give up on photography. I feel like AI has already massively impacted our world as photographers. A lot of people are in denial about it, a lot of people are coping, but I think that now I've got a little bit more hope. And I think that it's time to continue. And I think that it's time now to try harder than ever. Last year was extremely successful for me. I had an amazing year. I made more money than I thought I could make doing photography. And towards the end of the year, I saw my sales essentially drop off a cliff. In the last 45 days ish, I've made about $4,000. And for me, as a full time photographer with no other job, that's not even close to enough for me to facilitate living my life. It doesn't pay the bills. And it's definitely not even close to enough to build the future that I'm looking for. I want to have some kids. I want to be able to take care of my family. And on that income, we'd be destitute. I wouldn't be able to pay my mortgage. I'd be out of luck. I went through a deep despair period over the last few months. And I really pretty much decided to give up. I decided that it's over. There was a few reasons. The first one was I tried out an actual AI tool that creates flat lays of clothing. I don't do a lot of clothing photography, but I do a lot of product photography and pack shots, or I did. And I tried out this AI tool. I've tried some out in the past. They usually are terrible, but this one worked well, like really well. I can't remember the name of it and I don't care, but you could upload a photo, a bad photo of someone wearing an item of clothing, and it would generate flat lay images of that item of clothing that were essentially perfect. The images it generated were actually just better than the photography that I can do of clothing. They were just better and they cost nothing. For photos like that, people would ship me their product. It would take me hours and hours and hours of work, and I would charge $20 to $50 per image. They can do it with AI now themselves in maybe an hour or 15 minutes, depending on how many items they're doing. For, I don't know, a subscription that costs like $20 a month. So, realizing that and looking at the writing on the wall, I felt like it was over. But I think that there's a few other dynamics in the market that you need to consider before you quit doing photography. I don't do weddings. I know everybody's saying, yeah, you should just do weddings, do weddings. I don't want to do weddings. That's not what I do. And that's basically a different job. Like, yes, you're still doing photography, you have a similar skill set, but I do brands, I do businesses, I shoot products. And it's not the same thing, even close to shooting weddings. The marketing is different, the clients are different, everything is different. The only similarity is I'm using a camera and I'm using the same software to edit. I don't even have the skill set to shoot weddings anywhere near the level that I shoot products and I shoot for businesses. I've built a skill set and a client base based on a completely different thing. So I'm not going to change to weddings. I'd rather get a different job because I'm effectively changing my job completely if I try to switch to weddings anyways. So I might as well just come up with a new career anyways, especially because I don't want to shoot weddings. I don't want to run around for 12 hours chasing people that are drinking, that are emotional, trying to please them, and delivering hundreds of assets from a one-day shoot. Again, I don't really have that skill set. It's a completely different thing. And people think that all photography is the same. That's because they're not photographers. So that's fine. They don't understand that. It's like a completely different thing and I don't want to do it. So everyone's saying you got to pivot, you got to adapt to AI, you have to adopt AI into your workflows. That's how you're going to get ahead. And I don't really feel like that advice is something that makes sense. I mean, it's like the most obvious thing ever that you have to adapt and you have to pivot. Obviously, as photographers, we can no longer offer a service that effectively gives people something that's 10 times the cost of AI when they can do it with AI. So the question is obvious. It was always obvious. What can we do that AI can't do? And there's many answers to that question. Obviously, weddings is one of those things, but also, I think a lot of people are saying storytelling. AI can't really tell stories about brands. It can't provide a large collection of images that are aesthetically consistent, tell stories, connect with audiences. And I think generally speaking, that's true. Can it do simple product photography? Yes. Can we do that anymore? No. It's time to move on. And I've changed my entire website to appeal to people that are looking for something else. Because if someone wants white background pack shots of a simple product, if they message me, they're wasting my time. Because when I tell them the price that facilitates me getting paid enough to actually keep the lights on in my house, they're not going to get back to me because people aren't stupid. They're going to do 5 seconds of research and they're going to find an AI model that will do the same job for $12 or $1 or free. And after 2-ish months of total despair, of writing down lists of ideas of what my next career was going to be, I've decided I'm not giving up. I've decided it's not over yet. I've decided that now is the time for me to double down, triple down, put all my chips on the table. And it's not possible for me to rest on my laurels anymore. A year ago, AI was already here, but it couldn't do anything effectively. It was garbage and people didn't really understand it as much. So I was really chilling. Like last year around spring, I was getting so many contracts that I was increasing my prices. I was not chasing around clients. I did not follow up with them saying, hey, about that conversation we had last week, any thoughts? I just waited for them to respond, and they would. And in my desperation over the last few months, I've been employing every single possible sales tactic that I could, and it just made me look desperate. It made me look bad. And I have reverted now. I have decided that instead of resting on my laurels, I must produce more than ever. I must do test shoots. I wasn't doing any test shoots. I wasn't shooting anything for free because I was making a ton of money and I felt like I was on top of the world and I didn't have to do that stuff. But if I was doing that stuff, I would now probably have a lot more clients, higher end clients, a better portfolio. And I think as photographers, we now need to understand that even though gig work pays the bills a lot of the time, and it has for me, even though you can get paid thousands of dollars per day, so you can have a month where you make 10, 15, $20,000 and not be that busy, right? I had those months. I had months where I made $15,000, $20,000 and I wasn't that busy. I did a couple shoots a week. Some of them were big, some of them weren't. It was chill, okay? So with my free time, I did a lot of relaxation, and I think that was short-sighted because I thought I made it. I thought it was over, which was stupid. Now I'm treating it like a job. And, I treated this like a job before. I treated my work with a lot of respect. I'm not saying that I was just like flippant, but in a way, I didn't take it seriously enough. I was doing the work I was paid to do, and when I was done the contract or done the shoot, I was done. I didn't obsess over my portfolio. I didn't try to do bigger and better things. I took the work that came in, and that was it. And that's not enough anymore. And that's nothing to complain about. This is forcing me to take myself up to a higher standard. So now, instead of on a slow week, relaxing, I'm going to keep working. And I think my life's going to be better for it. I think that actually, at the end of the day, I don't really like relaxing that much. It's good to have downtime, but like I was doing way too much of it. I really thought like I was really arrogant in the fact that I was like, well, I'm making a ton of money. Why would I work harder? I've worked really hard in my life, especially in my previous career as a chef, and I kind of didn't want to work hard anymore. I kind of wanted to like take it easy. But now it is incumbent upon me to work harder. So, photographers, I think it's time for us to outdo AI. And that's not going to be an easy feat because it's rapidly improving. But I've decided that I'm in this. I'm in this. I'm not giving up and I'm going to keep going. And I may suffer financially for a while. And I may be wrong. I might fail. But I'm not going to give up now. That would be pathetic. That would be the wrong choice because I love this job more than anything that I've ever done. It's not even close. And now, with that free time, I'm going to be working. I'm going to be doing work that I love. And in fact, I think that work, the work that I'm doing for free, the work that I'm doing because I want to do it in the first place, not because a client hired me to do it, I think that work is going to speak to my client base more than anything. That work is going to emanate my artistic soul, whatever is inside of my mind and whatever I'm capable of producing. That's going to be closer to the mark of my integrity than the jobs that I'm hired to do. Because the jobs that I'm hired to do, I have to please my clients. I have to be able to do their job. Like it's my job, but it's their expectations. And as much as I can try to convince my clients to do things a certain way, I only have a certain degree of artistic integrity, or I only have certain latitude to be able to express my own photography vision in each of these jobs. Some of them it's more. Some of these clients say, hey, here's the product or here's our brand. You take the wheels or you take the wheel. Some of my clients do the exact opposite and they obsess over every detail and kind of just make me go through the motions, which is fine. Obviously, those jobs aren't as fun, but none of those jobs give me the ability to just truly be free. And now I'm embracing freedom. And I think that being able to inject some freedom and some liberty into my life, into my work, and into my portfolio is going to put me in a position where people will respect my art a lot more. And I think as the pressure builds inside the market and more people pivot away from what AI can do and towards what AI can't do, that creates a smaller and smaller pool of jobs that actually exist, right? So AI is taking up market share and everyone says, okay, we'll just pivot, do something AI can't do, tell stories, do weddings, whatever. Okay, but all these photographers that were doing jobs that are now replaced by AI, the problem is these people are all going to shift into the same categories. The same categories that now can still somehow hold some weight and flourish. So now the competition is going to become fiercer, right? So by pivoting, yes, you have to pivot. Of course, everyone already did. If you haven't already pivoted, you're like, I don't even know, like how ignorant are you? What have you been doing for the last 6 months? What, like you're just sitting there with a bunch of average photos of products on white backgrounds and you think that you're going to get a lead? You think you're going to close a contract? No, like it's not going to happen unless you're doing like 20 Amazon listings a month for a couple $100, doing the like massive volume of horrible work. You're going to get cooked. AI already cooked you. So we've already pivoted. Everyone's already pivoted. That's a conversation that we already had. But the problem is that everyone's pivoting into the same niches. So now there's more people in these niches, okay? And there's more people looking for those contracts. There's more people marketing for those contracts. But the upside to all of this is when that happens, the market must shift. And there's two ways that it can go. The first way is all photographers that move into these niches are fighting over fewer contracts and everyone gets paid less. The value of our job diminishes and we all can't pay our bills basically. And like maybe a few people at the very top are just wildly successful. Of course, that will always be the case. But is that realistic? Because most people have bills to pay. So the reality is this is going to result in a separation of the wheat from the chaff. Many will be forced to give up. I might be among those people. I'm not yet. I'm really just going to keep cracking at this because I love it. But many people are going to be forced to quit. You might be one of them. I might be one of them. I would say, in fact, that maybe the majority of people are going to have to put down the camera and say, next time I pick this up, it's for fun. It's not for work. It's not for money. Maybe, I've seen a lot of comments on YouTube videos of people saying, well, I always loved photography as a hobby, so I guess that's what it's going to be for me now. It's going to be for fun. It's not going to be for money. And I think that there's going to be a massive exodus of people leaving the industry because they have to. If you don't make enough money to pay the bills, you have to stop. You have to go and do something else with your time, and it's over. So in the interim, yes, we must suffer. We must lose contracts, all of us. And it might be vicious. It might be a brutal fight. And if you are not marketing correctly, if you're not doing your client management correctly, if you have not done the right things, I don't know if I'm doing the right things. If you haven't done the right things and don't continue to do so, you're probably going to get pushed out and you're going to have to do something else. And it sucks. It sucks because we all love this. But the reality is when a labor market, so to speak, is oversaturated, well, everybody either gets paid really, really badly or a bunch of people leave and the ones that remain end up proportionally being probably paid the same because, there's 80% less jobs, but now there's 80% less photographers. And that might be the case for us. But the market can't sustain itself when nobody's getting paid enough. Eventually, when no one's getting paid enough, the majority of people will stop. They'll stop paying for ads. They'll stop doing outreach. They'll stop working. And I have a good feeling about this spring. I think there's enough work to go around still. I think that I can pay my bills, hopefully. Things are looking up at the moment. But I think that it's time for a lot of people to decide which side of the fence they're going to be on. Is it time to give up or is it time to double down and triple down? Because there's really no in between. There's no, I can just keep doing what I was doing. Unfortunately, we don't live in a world like that anymore. And it's really pretty much true for like everyone in the world right now. It's time to either double down on what you're doing and like really put your chips down and risk it, or it's time to like cut your losses, figure out something that can't be taken away from you, pivot your entire life and start over. And I don't like the fact that it's come to this, but I'm now seeing it as an opportunity rather than an affliction, rather than an unfortunate series of events. And I actually believe that with the rise of AI, if you are able to, and I'm not saying this is easy, this is going to be one of the hardest things we can do. If you are able to clearly and immediately differentiate yourself from AI work, if your work is unmistakably real, you will actually, I think in the near future, when everyone begins to hate AI, I mean, they already do, right? The public hates AI. The backlash is just massive. If you can really make work that is clearly not AI, I think you will be paid more. I think you will be more successful. because once you figure out that part of the equation, you have now put yourself in a very favorable position, because those brands, those businesses, whatever they might be, that can't afford to use AI, they can't afford to alienate their customer base, they can't afford to look like idiots and bozos. Those big brands, those brands that value their authenticity, if there's not many of you to go around, those brands are going to have to pay a premium, and they're going to be ready to do it. They always have been, but I think that premium might just get higher. So this is my message of hopefulness to you. I feel hopeful for the first time in a while. I'm getting up in the morning now at a reasonable hour with a reasonable degree of hope in my heart and belief in the future, which hasn't happened for a while. And I want to say to you, if you really think about the economics of this and the way that the market is actually going to move when AI saturates things, it already has. I believe that the only position you can be in is one that is uniquely different from AI. Whether that's your style of shooting, whether it's your whole artistic style, whatever it might be. And once you do that, I really believe you will be in a better position than before, because the value of AI content is effectively zero already. And the value of something is typically defined, at least in large part, by its scarcity. Scarcity defines value. So if your work is scarce, meaning that it is different, notably and obviously different from AI, and there's not many people that are going to continue pursuing this kind of work, and there's not many people that are going to be able to be notably differentiated from AI, you just became rare. And brands using authentic imagery, real photography, is becoming rarer, at least proportionally to all of the content out there. Something that's real is becoming more and more rare. So now the tiny sliver of the world that you exist in that creates real photos is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that can potentially work massively to your benefit. Photographers have always had a hard job in terms of being able to actually make any money. You know, what percentage of photographers actually make money, right? I mean, you know, you have to distinguish between people that do it as a hobby versus people that try to actually make it into a career. But among those who actually try to make photography a career, I would hazard to guess that less than 10% of them actually build something where they can sustainably pay their bills with it. Because, you know, you don't even just have to be good at photography. In fact, that's almost besides the point. I've seen a lot of really successful studios that produce garbage. But you have to be really good at marketing, and you have to get things right, a lot of different things right. You know, if you're going to be a freelance photographer, you have to get a lot of things right. It's not just like you're going to pick up a freaking camera, do a cool photo shoot, and then people just show up. Okay. Whether it's marketing, advertising, Google ads, networking, all of this stuff. I mean, there's a million, billion, trillion different ways that you have to adapt, and it's always changing. So amongst all of us, people that really want to make this happen, people that can make this happen, people that have made money, right? That have made a career out of this, we've already been in a highly competitive field that is unforgiving. This is just making it slightly worse or slightly harder. And I think that this is going to have an effect that people haven't really been talking about. I think many more photographers are going to give up. I almost gave up. I'm like a pretty, you know, rugged guy. I've been through a lot of shit in my life, you know, not to act like I'm some kind of hardcore dude, but like I'm not the guy that just like gives up, you know? Like I'm pretty determined. But I was like this close. Like I was ready to just throw in the towel.